Terrorism is now suspected as the cause of numerous devastating wildfires currently raging across Israel on the country's Memorial Day.
So this is a serious problem. It's driving at an issue which is very central to the Bible. It's the issue of the relationship between Israel and the other nations.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Terrorists have lit Israel on fire, and this gets us thinking, why in the world, Lord, would this be happening again? Why does this always happen to Israel? The answer to that question is deeply theological, and we need to understand that. So let's get our news straight, and then we will turn to Bishop Barron to illuminate the clear dilemma between Israel and other nations.
Terrorism is now suspected as the cause of numerous devastating wildfires currently raging across Israel on the country's Memorial Day. Well, Israeli tour guide Ron Lahad joins us now from Jerusalem. Ron, my brother, what can you tell us?
Hey, Raj, thank you for having me. So this morning, early on, right as the memorial services of Memorial Day were happening during around 10 a.m. in the morning, fires were set. Now we know that were set and didn't just spark out due to, of course, low humidity and heat wave coming in. And they started in the area not far from Latun, the area not far from the Tank Museum Memorial on the entrance to Jerusalem, just on the slopes of the hills. Quickly, due to the crazy winds and weather, it picked up and caught on and is now got to the level that they had to close road number one. They're evacuating communities, and it's now already after 7 p.m. and they had to call in the Air Force to allow and help with putting out the fires. We are suspecting arson. They actually caught 3 people who are currently in Shin Bet investigation. We know that also the reason we're suspecting terrorism is not just the fact we have video footage of a guy starting a fire. We also know on social media it was like a call to arms to light fires around Jewish communities and maybe national symbols, especially symbolically on today on Memorial Day. Due to the weather, Israel has requested support from foreign countries for firefighting. We actually closed the airport, allowing like the super tanker plane to arrive. The fire department has showed that the weather conditions, due to severe winds, the efforts and their planes are not able to function properly. So it's thousands of acres of a forest have already been burnt. Cars by the road number one leading to Jerusalem caught on fire as well as their drivers were evacuated. Special operations units like 669, which is the Air Force Special Pararescue Unit, is taking people out of harm's way. So the entire country has declared a national emergency zone.
So that's the news. The question looms, why does this happen? Now, many of you are familiar with this conflict, and you might hear what Bishop Barron has to say in this brief clip that I'm about to play, and you will think that he might be neutral on Israel or anti-Israel if you're very emphatic. Let's just watch what he has to say, and then I will explain why this is the actual solution to the conflict on the back end.
Peace be with you. Friends, our gospel today is from Matthew chapter 15, the famous story of Jesus and the Syrophoenician woman. Now, I found my years of preaching, this is one of those gospels that bothers people. They come up to you afterwards, and even after your homily, which you think has cleared up every question, they still say, look, I don't get it. This gospel unnerves me. You know the story where Jesus is up now in this region of Tyre and Sidon, so it would be just outside of the borders of Israel. And he comes across this Canaanite woman, and she cries out to him, have pity on me, Lord, Son of David, my daughter is tormented by a demon. Now, normally Jesus, okay, I will act, I will do something. He responds. Well, this one, there's such a sort of off-putting quality, right? So Jesus first did not say a word in answer to her. Now, can you imagine, someone comes up to you and asks a favor, and you don't even say, I'm sorry, or I can't do it right now. You don't even say a word to her. And then the disciples come, so Jesus' entourage, they kind of get on her case, and they ask to send her away. And she keeps persisting, and Jesus says, no, I've been sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, not to women such as this. And then when she keeps persisting, what does he say? And it's one of the harshest things, it seems, that he says in the Gospels. It's not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs. So here's this woman who's in great need. She's asking, mind you, not for herself, but for her daughter. She's come in faith, it seems, to Jesus, calling him the Son of David. And she's just put off, again and again. And then she has one of the great comeback one-liners in the Gospels. Well, please, Lord, even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters. At this point, Jesus says, okay, I will do what you ask because your faith is great. Well, you can see why this bothers people. Well, here's Jesus, the sinless Christ, and he seems to be pretty grouchy, pretty grumpy. His disciples, we're used to them being a little bit obnoxious, but Jesus himself, and then to throw this line into the face of this woman who's in great need and calling her a dog, essentially. What do we make of this? Okay, can I tell you, first of all, how not to read this story? Even though I heard growing up probably 100 homilies along this line, this is not the way to read it. Well, poor Jesus had a tough day of ministry, and yeah, he was grumpy and grouchy at the end of the day, tired, probably hungry. And this woman comes up and she's pestering him, and so he kind of snaps at her. It shows his humanity and it shows his limitations. And then this plucky Syrophoenician woman, she hangs in there and she speaks truth to power, and so then she shows how clever she is, and she gets what she wants. Please, everybody, that's not how to read this story. See, the problem number one with that is, say what you want, it turns Jesus into a sinner. And we can't have the sinless Son of God being a sinner. Even to say, oh, look, he's grumpy and grouchy after a long hard day's work. Still, I don't care how grumpy and grouchy I am, if at the end of the day I start snapping at people and calling them names, well, that's a sin. So we can't interpret this story as though Jesus becomes a sinner, because the minute Jesus becomes a sinner, he's not the Savior. So this is a serious problem. So let's get rid of that interpretation. I think we're meant to read this in a much more subtle way. It's driving at an issue which is very central to the Bible. It's the issue of the relationship between Israel and the other nations. Okay? Israel and the other nations. Is Israel the special chosen people of God? Yes. Yes. Well, I guess that means the other nations are kind of in the outer darkness. No. Israel has been chosen for the sake of the nations. See, that's the principle. And this is a good example of a New Testament instantiation of that principle. Go right back, everybody, to the very beginning of the Bible, when God creates the heavens and the earth. There's no Israel at that time. There's God creating all that is. God's salvific purpose has to do not just with Israel, it has to do with the whole universe. More to it, think of those opening stories of Noah, for example. Noah's not an Israelite. There's no Israel at the time of Noah. But yet God is concerned for him. God's concern is with all of his creation and with all of humanity. Now, what's the means? This is very important, everybody. It's very important to get this because a lot hinges in the Bible upon this. What's the means that God chose to deal with his whole creation and all of humanity? The means chosen is the formation of a particular people, Israel. So beginning with Abraham, remember the call of Abraham, and then from him, Isaac and Jacob, and then to Moses and Joshua and Saul and David. We have the temple, we have Torah, we have covenant, we have prophecy, we have all the institutions of Israel. What was the purpose of all of that? It was to form a holy people, according to God's mind and heart, who would then draw to themselves all the nations of the world. Or shift the metaphor, from that central place would go out God's good order so as to bring all the world into union with the Creator God.
So, as I stated in the beginning, the issue here is deeply theological. Israel is the chosen people of God, but the nuance that always has to be maintained is that doesn't mean that they can live for themselves. They were chosen for the sake of the nations, they were chosen for the sake of the world. Now, again, with that being said, though, we have to understand that they are, in fact, the chosen people of God. They are a special people. And since they are a special people, the devil is very active against them. They were an instrument and are an instrument that God uses to bring about salvation. Jesus was a Jew after all. Think about it. And not only was Jesus a Jew, but the New Testament and the apostles were adamant all the time that the poor Jewish population needed to be taken care of by the Gentile population. And so I think if we are to be biblical Christians, we have to come to the aid of the Israeli people, the Jewish people. They're the chosen people of God. Jesus was a Jew. And since he was, and they were an instrument that God used for salvation, we must always take care of them. Throughout history, they have been bombarded and will continue to be so. It's absolutely crucial that Christians come to their aid. But we must always remember that there is an Israel of God, theologically speaking, the people of God by faith in our forefather Abraham. We must take care of them, but we must remember that it's ultimately about salvation. So we must take care of them, but we always want to point them back to the salvation that actually comes through their lineage. It actually comes from their ethnicity, Jesus Christ himself. Jesus Christ himself. And since that is the case, the devil will always war against them, and we need to be helping them all the time. All right, be thinking about those things. It's so sad to see these types of news articles, these briefs. I guess it's a video, it's not an article. It's a video article, I guess we could say. But be praying for Israel and be praying for the devil's attacks to be thwarted against them. I think that's something that we must take away from this video. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.